Good Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock. Time for Sports for CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good day. Browns back out on the practice field in Berea, getting ready for the Monday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Some injury updates. Juan Thornhill, calf not going today. Maurice Hurst not practicing either. He's working on the side. He has a hamstring. Joel Bitonio, Amari Cooper, Anthony Walker looked like rest days along with Myles Garrett. Siaka Ika wasn't on the field during the portion of the workout that was open to reporters. Reason for that not known yet. So they're getting ready, are the Browns, to go into Pittsburgh to face the Steelers on Monday Night Football. Steelers 20-0 at home, their last 20 Monday Night Football games. Last loss 1991 to the Giants, 23-20. Deshaun Watson was asked about that streak earlier today.
You just got to go out there and win. You got to go out there and earn it. You know, they're not going to give it to us. That's a very impressive stat for them. But, you know, when we go in there, we can't, think about that stat. It's a 2023 year. We can't focus on the past, and, we got to try to break that tradition that they have going. So, but it's not going to be easy. It's definitely going to be a tough task, and I think we have the team that can go in there and do it.
You were able to experience a game there last year, the last game of the year. Anything particular about that environment that makes it tougher?
Yeah, I mean, they have a great fan base. They support their team, and the defense really rallies around that energy, and, they just try to make you do things that you're not, you would normally do. Get you kind of psyched out about, thinking about other things. But, we got to lock in, be laser focused, and just go in there and block all the noise out and execute the game plan.
Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, it doesn't factor into it. You add to that the Browns haven't played particularly well in Pittsburgh, but those were the days under Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, those were days under Ben Roethlisberger, and those were, before the Browns feel like they've settled this quarterback situation, settled some of the issues with the defensive coordinator situation. And, we tend to make it seem like there is something mythical about these streaks of futility that the Cleveland Browns have had. There's nothing mythical. There's nothing magical about it. These teams just suck for the last 23 years, that's why all of these streaks exist. It's not because we just have bad luck. It's because we were throwing out Derek Anderson, Colt McCoy, and our best defensive player was like either Joe Hayden or Jabal Sheard, right? That's what was the problem for the last 20 years. It's not because that stadium's any different or because it's such a difficult place to play. It's because for 20 years in Pittsburgh, we did not walk in there with the better football team, with the better coach football team, or with the competently coached defensive football team at least, right? So that's just been what the problem has been. And, for Deshaun, look, that streak might be 20 years old, but for him, that's not a streak because it didn't happen to him. Right. It's happened to other guys, other teams that were of lesser quality. So, yes, it matters that they haven't had this success in Pittsburgh. But keep in mind, it's no mystery why Pittsburgh dominated the Cleveland Browns. Everybody dominated the Cleveland Browns. They stunk for like 20 years. That's where all these streaks come from. It's not like we were like 10-6 every year and we couldn't beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like the Bengals record versus the Browns is more of a mystery than anything that the Browns losing streaks have to say, because the Bengals are good and they can't beat us, right? Like, we stunk and we didn't beat anybody. That makes sense to me. Like, okay, I think that's why that record is what it is. And they beat them in 2020 in the playoffs in Pittsburgh. So it's possible. It's doable.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Watson. Browns win 24-3. I don't think anybody would argue that Deshaun Watson played. He made enough plays to win, which that's the mark of a good quarterback. Find a way to impact the game. Do you think Browns fans are making excuses for the way he threw the ball relative to the weather?
I don't think it's that they're making excuses. I think there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. if we're nitpicking the throws aren't what I am not thrilled about when I look at his tape from that game. The throws are like what they're going to be what they're going to be. Joe Burrow had terrible throws. There were some missed opportunities though that Deshaun Watson had if he had to just been a little bit more patient, let things develop. I thought that there were, I could count on my hand like 5 or 6 opportunities that he could have had that he kind of rushed when he didn't have to rush. And that's the stuff that, whether, no weather, you still got to try to get the ball where you get it at the time that you try to get it. So, those are the things that I'm kind of focusing on, because I just think that Deshaun sometimes has a tendency to want to get out of structure before it's necessary. And in a too high safety league like we are in today, you got to just take what's there. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. I think when they looked at the film this week, that's going to be the biggest takeaway for Deshaun, ABP, and Kevin Stefanski. Just got to take what's there. Sometimes we want to be Superman. You don't got to be Superman. You got good players on this team to just take the ball where it needs to go if you just get it there in time. And I think that's going to be one of the keys for Deshaun Watson this week, is that, you might have to play a little bit more of a boring game, but I think that's going to be a successful strategy.
So the other thing that we know, Dawan Jones will get the start for Jack Conklin. He's now on injured reserve. Jones talked today about making his first start in Pittsburgh against the Steelers and T.J. Watt.
Big task at hand. Can't wait, honestly. I couldn't ask for nothing else.
Picked a pretty good guy to go against, didn't you?
Great player, great guy. I've been watching film nonstop. That's already me, but had to be on top of it for sure this week. Just knowing he has so many moves in his arsenal. Just gotta stay sound.
What is it that makes him, defensive player of the year a couple years ago?
Nonstop. He just does not quit. He does not have he has a motor of just nonstop moves. And my major thing is if I get to limit him to some of them, use my length and my strength to my best ability, I can minimize whatever he has to throw at me.
Quincy, a guy that doesn't sound terribly intimidated by going against Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah, I think it's a decent matchup for him, right? It's T.J. Watt at the end of the day, so I'm not going to say he's going to shut him down. Like that would be as ridiculous as somebody insinuating a rookie would shut down Myles Garrett. But I do think the matchup is something that he can handle, where even if he gets beat, it's going to be in predictable enough ways that Deshaun can escape, and it's not going to be something that breaks the game, which is best case scenario for a rookie going up against T.J. Watt. So yeah, I think he should feel confident. He had the thing that T.J. Watt does really well is that bull rush going across your torso. The thing that Dawan Jones does, I think, at a high level is his anchor. So I think he feels reasonably confident that his skill set should be something that can benefit him versus a T.J. Watt. And I think that the coaching staff feels that way too.
All right, when you look at it, Pro Football Focus Week 1 grades for a pass rush. Number 1 is that guy, T.J. Watt, 94.9 going against the 49ers. DeForest Buckner, number 2. Jalen Carter, number 3. And Myles Garrett, 90.3, grades out at number 4. So Garrett had a good game. The defense, think of it this way, Quincy, if I was going to tell you the Browns were going to be -2 in the turnover category, but they're going to win by 21 points. That's how good that defense was.
Yeah, both those turnovers, I don't think they got points off both those turnovers, right? The fumble, they got the stop there, didn't they get Joe Burrow off the field, and then the interception turned into a 51-yard field goal that was missed by Zach McPherson. So they got 0 points off 2 turnovers. And again, we're not talking about the Houston Texans getting 0 points off 2 turnovers. We're talking about Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals getting 0 points off of 2 turnovers. That's very, very encouraging. The one caveat I would put in there is, hey, for whatever reason, the Bengals don't show up when we play them, right? Like, we can say it's Jamar Chase, we can say it's Joe Burrow, but we know that this team has a tendency to be asleep when they play in Cleveland for whatever reason. So we have to see if that carries over to other teams, right? Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Baltimore. And what's interesting to me is I don't know if we're going to have a really good grip on what this defense can do against an elite offense until after the bye, because I don't think any of the three offenses that they have coming up are more challenging on paper than what Cincinnati throws at you. And we already discussed, for whatever reason, Cincinnati just has a very difficult time getting that offense going, one, early in the season, and two, versus Cleveland. And it was a perfect recipe for disaster for them on week 1.
So this is another encouraging thing. So this is from NFL Game Day. They tweet this out. Fewest penalty yards week 1. You see Jets, Bucks, Bengals, Chiefs. Browns tied for 9th with 43. So again, it's a step in the right direction from a season ago when they were highly penalized. 9th is not bad. We take that.
Yeah, 9th is fine. Again, with those kind of things, you just want to be in the top half, right? If you just don't want to be in that bottom third of those type of numbers, because that's when it starts to affect games. But yeah, 9th is not bad. You're in the top half of the league. You could do a lot worse than that, and you're not putting yourself in a position to where it's going to cost you games. Now, luckily for this team, their margin of error should be higher to where very rarely should penalties really affect their ability to win football games. But it's still nice to not have to deal with it.
Quincy Carrier, Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage tonight. I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Want to remind you, we want your predictions for the Browns-Steelers game Monday night. We will use it Monday during the show. Also, what should this defense be named? Come up with a name for the defense. Leave it on the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Rich Eisen from the Rich Eisen Show with his Week 2 power rankings. He's got the Niners 1, Cowboys 2, Eagles 3, Chiefs 4, and the Ravens checking at number 9.
The team with the 10th most power.
This is going to be great.
On my rankings.
What dumb team are you going to put in this top 10?
New to the list are your Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
Call them elves all you want.
They should be higher.
Call them elves all you want.
Well,
But
thinks they should be
they
8th.
took care of business against Cincinnati again. And if they can run it down your throat, and if you are struggling on offense and you wind up giving them a lead of a score or 2 scores, they could put you to sleep, because they got the Grim Reaper with his sickle coming for your quarterback and Myles Garrett. Jim Schwartz has coordinated the defense. The Browns fans are like, wait a minute, we have a DC that we're not going to be bitching about 24/7, 365? So I don't know what they're going to be complaining about next, but they didn't have anything to complain about week 1. They're number 10 on my power rankings.
And Quincy, you're starting to see as the games unfold, the Browns are moving up that list and probably going to settle in somewhere in the middle of that top 10 if they continue to play the way they should.
Admittedly, they picked a bad week to blow out a top-level team, right? Like, everybody, all the top teams in the AFC got beat. So, like, by the time we got to Sunday, it was like, oh, okay, another one, right? And then, well, it happened Sunday, and then Monday, the Bills decide to lose to the Jets with Zach Wilson. So, it just all got thrown under a weird week. But, yeah, the Browns did what they're supposed to against Cincinnati Bengals. What I think is more encouraging is that nobody around the team nor on the team is shocked at what happened, right? They don't seem like it caught them off guard that they did that to the Bengals. It's kind of like they expected to do that to Cincinnati, and that's what should encourage you more, is that they feel like they can get better.
Yeah, and again, there were areas to improve. The most impressive thing is, you clearly, from my perspective, you clearly saw they wanted to throw the ball, and then midway through the second quarter, they realized we're just not going to be able to throw the ball. So they just went back to Nick Chubb and stayed there.
Yeah, they made the adjustment in the middle of the game for the conditions. It takes a while for people to accept that these conditions are what they are. And Dave, I'm going to be honest, I think these conditions were much worse than we understand it to be, because everybody who touched that football talks about how unusually awful that football was to hold and to grip. Like, there must have been something special going on there. Like, I don't think that was regular rain, because usually when you touch leather in regular rain, it's harder, but it's not. It's grippy. Like, it's actually more grippy than it usually is when you're playing in normal weather conditions, because it's not being like mudded down or whatever it is. It's kind of like a good ball. You just got to put some towels on. It seemed like that ball was put in oil, the way that they talk about it. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. They're like, it was slippery. Both punters, both kickers, and both quarterbacks were like, yeah, that thing was a disaster for whatever reason. I don't know what that rain runoff had in it. I think we should study it, but it clearly wasn't regular rainwater, because the rain don't do that to the football. It don't make it slippery. That's not what happens to leather and rain.
All right, Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach, talked about what he saw on tape from the Browns secondary.
Schwartz knows what he's doing. They're connected in those ways. Man, they got a veteran secondary. Those guys have been together now for a length of time, and particularly their corner group. Ward and Newsome, first-round draft picks, man, guys that have grown up in that program. To be blunt, I thought the corners won the game for them last week. Their ability to stand on the line of scrimmage, man, and challenge the Cincinnati Bengals, I thought was really impressive. They stood up time and time again. It allowed their safeties and linebackers to get focused on minimizing, mixing in some of the run game, and I thought that was the catalyst for the performance. And so got a lot of work ahead of us, man, a familiar group, a good group, a group that's looking to go 2-0 in the division, I would imagine. And we got Monday Night Football.
Quincy, your mind, what was the key to that defense just flat out dominating?
Well, I think the coverage in the back end being as good as it was, especially early in those passing sets, was important. But also, like, the pressure, and somebody brought this up to me, the Browns got pressure, and it wasn't like slow pressure. It was immediate pressure. Like, I don't think you can count more than like 3 times where Joe Burrow got to the top of his drop and had time to breathe as a quarterback, right? It was usually he was breaking his drop, or he gets to his drop, got to go. Just pressure, immediate pressure all game on the Cincinnati Bengals, which made the corners' lives easier. And the corners did a good job of making sure that there was no quick outs for Joe Burrow to go to, because they knew that this pass rush was going to get home and get home quick.
So along those lines, this is from Pro Football Focus. They tweet this out. Only defenses to allow 0 15-plus yard pass plays in week 1, Browns and the Falcons. Again, it just kind of and I guarantee you, the Falcons weren't facing Joe Burrow.
No, they were not. I forget who they played that week, but I think it was rookie Bryce Young and old Adam Thielen. So, like, yeah, they're not the same, right. But of course, always impressive. And they played inside, I believe, so it wasn't even like with the conditions. So, yeah, I think, you know, it's special what this secondary was able to do. Grant Delpit being able to step in and cover wide receivers at a high level is definitely something that if he can do on a regular basis this season, boy, oh boy, that changes things for this defense.
Yeah, he was really good, and you saw glimpses of what you thought you were going to get from Grant Delpit in that game against Bengals. All right, this is Tony Grossi tweets this out. Per the NFL, Browns have 8 players on their roster 30 or older. That's tied for 11th among the 32 teams. Average age, though, 25.98, ranks 19th. So bottom, they're one of the younger teams in the league, if you will, the third of that, which tells you they have a lot of old guys and a lot of really young guys. And that middle is kind of where not very many people reside.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's like time changes in the blink of an eye. A lot of the guys that Mike Tomlin talked about when he said veteran secondary, a lot of us went, what? Veteran secondary? Denzel Ward been in the league for like 6 years. Myles Garrett's in his 7th year, right? Like a lot of these guys, Nick Chubb, he's also in his like 5th or 6th year. A lot of these guys that we've had with this team, and I thought the key word that Mike Tomlin used was program. Right. And that's something that the Browns have not had in comparison to other AFC North teams, specifically Pittsburgh and Baltimore, is the feeling that they have a program, right? They have plans for guys. Yeah, rookie year is not going to be a super impactful season for them, but 2-3 years down the line, we're going to have a slot for this guy to fill. And that's what they've done a really good job of. Like, Dave, you've covered this team in the 2010s, right? You remember what it was like when the most veteran player on the team was either Joe Thomas or some guy that they drafted 3 years ago, right? Like that's usually what the longevity was. We have a bunch of guys on this Browns team that have been here for a very long time, from the Sione Takis of the world who were here early in the Dorsey days to the Myles Garretts of the world. Like we have a lot of guys who just been here a while, and that is how you know that this organization, and I say this all the time, the name brand thought of the Cleveland Browns has not caught up to the reality of it. And the reality is that the Cleveland Browns have been as stable, as patient as any other franchise in football, almost up to where the top tier ones are. And that's starting to show its dividends when we get guys like Taki balling out, when we get guys like Greg Newsome balling out, when we get guys like Grant Delpit balling out, right? Like that's when this starts to pay dividends. Martin Emerson's another example. So yeah, it's a change of thought about the Cleveland Browns. Instead of being this unstable franchise, they're actually, I think, one of the better ran ones when it comes to roster in the NFL. Yeah,
and they've started to hit on draft picks that you can develop, like a Myles Garrett, like a Denzel Ward, like a Nick Chubb. You got to draft and get the guys that can play, and that was lacking in the 2010s and 2000s that we were talking about.
And it's like those mid-round guys too, right? Like that's the little glue there, right? Where you can get a decent linebacker with the mid-round pick, or you get a Donovan Peoples-Jones with the 6th-round pick, right? We were so used for so long that every pick had to be a home run in order for the Browns to be good, because that's how bereft this franchise had been of talent. But that's not the case anymore. The fact is that they can survive and get some guys in the mid rounds who are just going to be some glue, who are going to be some nice pieces for a few years for this team. And that's the beauty of it. Now you have a rookie in Dawan Jones stepping out there. I even mentioned UDFA, Ronnie Hickman.
Yep.
Played 10 snaps. Was fine.
Quincy, Carrier, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll also hear from Anthony Schwartz and Kenny Pickett. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, untitled, unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is James Seiler from Medina, Wadsworth, 50-year fan of the Browns. Hey, how do you think this defense that they're running with Jim Schwartz compares to the old Bill Belichick Giants defenses. I mean, since he coached under Bill Belichick with the Browns in the early 90s. Do you think there's any comparison to the tendencies and such and the way they run it? Thank you very much. You have a great day. Bye now.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, what do you think? Do you see any of Belichick in the Schwartz defense?
I would be lying to you if I told you I was watching LT tape. Like I would be, that was before I was born. I have no idea what the Belichick defensive court. I barely know I was born before his first head coaching run. I have no clue. Like no clue what is going on with his LT run. All I know is LT was really good and kind of crazy. But it's not really a Belichick style, like from what I know of Belichick, right? The Patriots days, not really a Belichick style defense, because that's actually closer to what Joe Woods used to do, where it's a lot of like coverage rules, a lot of complicated coverages to kind of make up for the fact that you don't have the talent to go, man, this is more or less a, hey man, we got him, can you beat him, right? Like all that fun stuff that people do with defensive coordinators to try to squeeze the most out of talent, that's all fun and good, but you ask any defensive coordinator, any defensive mind, if you could play cover one and get away with it, would you do it every play? They would. Like, point blank, period. Like if they could play man and just get away with it, they would. Because if you can do that, then you don't got to change nothing, right? You got to start to get into the coverage rules once you don't have the talent. It's very rare at the NFL level you have that talent.
So Belichick's defense, you had Taylor, you had Harry Carson, you had Peppers. They got after it. It was a little different though. Those were kind of linebackers. But the main thing is the thing that's very similar. They were going to dictate what you did. You weren't going to dictate. The offense wasn't going to dictate what a Belichick defense with the Giants did. And no offense is going to dictate what Jim Schwartz does with the offense is going to react to what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to get pressure with our front five, and then, we're going to drop six in coverage and see what you can do about it, right? Like, that's basically the plan here. And when you have pieces like Grant Delpit that can play linebacker just as well as he can cover, you can get away with it. And that's the difference, right? If we're talking from a schematic standpoint, those defenses, especially the later Belichick stuff, was, hey, how can I get away with what I don't have? This defense is, we got it. Can you beat it? Like that's Jim Schwartz's philosophy. I dare you to be better than me because I don't think you have better talent than me.
And that was definitely Belichick's Giants defenses, without question. All right, Anthony Walker talked today about what makes Jim Schwartz defense go.
The engine up front, they make everything go. So when you have those guys, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can go 5D lineman, you can go 4-man rush, 5-man rush, 6-man rush, whatever you do. And then the guys just willing to execute. Guys being selfless. I think you saw a lot of guys, just clearing the space for other guys to work. And nobody was selfish about it. We was all happy to see each other make plays. And I think that's the most important thing. You don't have selfish guys in this room.
Did you see confusion from the Bengals? Like, who are we going to block on this play?
We got to play them again. So.
That would be yes. We saw that, and I don't want to say it.
Don't give him a quote. Don't Jamar Chase it. You know what I mean? Like I like that he didn't Jamar Chase that quote. He saw it, saw the fake, and like a good linebacker, he understood what his responsibilities were to do, which is, hey, I'm gonna just kick back here and not say a thing. You know what I mean? Like defer to the zone. That's why Anthony Walker is a great Mike linebacker.
Well coached there. Well coached. All right. So the Steelers' offense was not good against the 49ers. It was really bad. Kenny Pickett talked about the importance of forgetting about week one if you're the Steelers, and getting off to a fast start against the Browns.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, you just want to, get a first down, get the chains moving, and get into the flow of the game. So that's what we want to get into on, Monday night, get back to playing our kind of football, and then just see where it goes.
You touched on it a little bit, but just how do you describe the mood among you guys kind of turning the page here and going into this week?
Yeah, the mood's been good. Like you said, it's 24-hour rule. Whether you win or lose, you have to keep that perspective. You can't change just because you win or change because you lose. You kind of keep everything the same, and you just find a rhythm in the weeks as they go. But I think the guys did a good job of turning the page 24 hours, fixing what we need to get fixed, and excited to play on Monday.
Do you have to establish more of a running game this week?
I mean, yeah, we didn't have much of it. Early on we got behind and we were trying to play catch up. That goes back to us just being successful on early downs, staying out of third and longs, and playing on time with the football. So it's a task that we got to get on early.
Can you guys go more up tempo, or does the game dictate that? I know a couple of guys are talking about you got to be successful on first downs too to kind of get into that.
Yeah, that kind of goes in the flow of the game. You get the chains moving, then you can go tempo. So that's kind of we'll see how the game's going, and we'll feel it out and how we want to tackle.
Quincy, they ran the ball 10 times and threw it 46.
It's rough. It's rough. Kenny Pickett got forced in a situation where he had to throw a ton, and the San Francisco 49ers have the kind of defense to where we're just going to close the middle of the field and leave you on the island with our four coverage guys and see what you could do about it. And if you can't dice up the middle of the field, then you ain't going to be able to do nothing, especially when that pass rush is as good as the 49ers. And the bad news for Kenny Pickett is it's not that different this week. It really isn't that different this week. You can make the argument that it might be worse because I think the Browns' corners are better than San Francisco's corners. You can debate Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett all you want, but Myles Garrett's the better player of the two. And I think there's a Darius. I think they got to figure out how they're going to have success if you're Pittsburgh, because it's not like your life's getting any easier, right? You play the Browns, they're going to have a good defense. You play the Bengals, they're going to have a good defense. You play the Ravens, they're going to have a good defense. It's murderer's row for Kenny Pickett. And if he wants to stay in the league and keep that status as a guy on the rise, he's got to find a way to have success, or else, we've seen this story before.
Quincy, Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll also take a deeper look at this matchup between the Browns and the Steelers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave Brake from Cleveland. A couple things to touch base on. Regarding the Cincy game, our team's supposed to be built for weather conditions like that, and it came through. Joe Burrow and Deshaun both had problems. The ball's wet, it's heavy. That's why they call it a pigskin, right or wrong. And we finally got someone that uses our guys on defense to their talent. We've been waiting for this for years because we are stacked over there. And we'll see it against Pittsburgh. I'm saying 31-14 Browns in that game, 8 or 9 sacks. Love you, brother. Be safe. It's a jungle out there, Dave. God bless.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, I know it's just week one, but Jim Schwartz did play to the strengths of the guys on the defensive side of the football.
I think that was the key. Coaching was the key this week, right? Not only did Jim Schwartz play to the strengths of the defense, he found ways to make Cincinnati uncomfortable, found ways that, quite frankly, they did stuff with Myles Garrett in that game that every player every offensive lineman that has a podcast has done a segment on, oh my God, I don't want to play that. With the whole Myles Garrett dribbling up the A-gap. That's been something, it's rare that a coach goes viral for how they're using a player, but like that went viral. Like I think in every locker room, every offensive line was like, "What we doing with this, y'all? Like we got to figure this one out because that's impossible to stop." So yeah, you talk about putting guys in position to be successful. That's probably like as good as you can get right there. Offensively, I think it goes under spoken about the success that the Browns were able to have offensively. We're able to get multiple field goal attempts. We're able to get some touchdowns. We're able to just put points on the board to help them be successful. And the fact of the matter is that the Browns are a team that can win multiple ways, and that's what gets you more wins in the NFL, right? When you have a low margin of error to victory, you're not going to win that many games in the NFL. But when you're a team that has a wide margin, you can win in a weather game because you can run the ball and your quarterback can run and do all that extra stuff. You can win in a game where it's a shootout because you feel like you have the equipment to go blow to blow with anybody at wide receiver and tight end. You can win a run the ball game. You can win a mud game. You can win all these different types of games because you feel like you're equipped for that. And the more ways you have the victory, the more victories you tend to have.
All right, Mike Tomlin talked about the Browns' offense and what he has seen from this team.
Obviously, if you're talking about the Cleveland Browns, man, it starts with Mr. Chubb. What he is capable of doing, the way he controls a game, and so forth is a little bit different but similar to Christian McCaffrey in that he keeps them on schedule, he controls the climate. If we're doing anything in this football game, man, we got to work to minimize that guy's impact. That is challenging because of the talent that they have around him, quite frankly, starting with their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, man. This guy is really talented, man. His ability to extend plays, his ability to attack a defense vertically, his ability to see the field as plays get extended, his arm talent in terms of throwing the ball downfield. He's got a myriad of eligibles that are challenging. Amari Cooper is top-notch. Njoku has grown up in that program. It's been cool to watch his maturation and development in all elements of their game over the time that he has been there. Run game, passing game, etc. They got some new pieces that provide variety.
And Quincy, the way they got the ball to Nick Chubb in the passing game, you got him into that second level, and I want to see more of that.
Absolutely. And it's just interesting hearing Mike Tomlin talk about this Browns roster, and you kind of can feel like he's like, man, I wish I had that roster. Like, what could I do with those guys? Because David Njoku, somebody that Pittsburgh liked, the Browns found a way to get him to where he needs to be. He talks about Deshaun, Nick Chubb. I mean, like, I wonder if you locked Mike Tomlin in a room, what he would tell you he would trade for Nick Chubb, because that seems like every coach's favorite player of all time is a dude like Nick Chubb. Mike Tomlin is like your favorite coach's favorite coach, so I bet he would be willing to give up an unseemly amount for Nick Chubb. The way he talks about him, he has been an admirer of his since like 2019.
All right, I know you've addressed this on your show. What do you think Deshaun Watson needs to do to beat the Steelers?
Quick and simple, patience, right? He just needs to trust it a little bit more. Give it that extra half second, or just get rid of the ball when you see it initially, right? Like, there were a lot of times where the play in structure worked. For whatever reason, he got out of structure and tried to make it work, and it didn't work as well. I think there's a lot of yards that he left on the table, a lot of production he left on the table because he just, for whatever reason, didn't feel comfortable letting that ball go in structure as much as he should have. Maybe it was the weather. We talked about that greasy ball that they were playing with, so maybe that had something to do with it. But this week, I want to see him be comfortable and just be okay taking what's there. I don't think this is going to be a 300-yard plus game for him or a 3-touchdown day. I think this is going to be a nice, modest 200, 230-yard, maybe a touchdown or two type day for him. And if he does that, that's exactly what the Browns need to win.
All right. Also from your show, what do you think Browns fans should be worried about against the Steelers?
Jed Wills versus Alex Highsmith is my biggest concern, because Jed Wills, of everybody on this Browns team, probably had the most concerning week one tape. Just not getting to the right depth, being beat inside a lot, not being predictable in how he gets beat. It was just a concern for Jed Wills. And I'm concerned about that matchup. All the attention is going to be on TJ Watt and Dawan Jones. But I think the matchup that has the potential to blow this game up is Jed Wills and Alex Highsmith.
All right, before I let you go, there's a debate going on because of Aaron Rodgers' Achilles injury on turf. Turf versus natural grass. What do you make of it?
I think NFL teams should have natural grass, but I don't think that solves the problem. And Dave, you know more than anybody, the issue I think is the pressure that it puts on your joints. And think about how many more high schools, how many more colleges are playing and practicing on turf than there used to be. I remember when I was in high school, it was rare that a team had a turf field. Like everybody would come look at the turf, touch the turf. Oh my goodness, this turf got the rubber things in it. Now it's not. Like a lot of high schools playing on turf. A lot of high schools practice on turf. So my concern is if these guys, while their body is developing, are practicing or playing on turf for 10 years, by the time they get to the NFL, is that damage already done to where the natural grass and it being technically safer isn't going to be something that helps? Now, again, if you're in the NFL, there's no reason you shouldn't have natural grass fields, especially in all new stadiums and all stadiums that can easily account it. I think it should probably be grandfathered in the turf for like somewhere like the Superdome or something like that. But in the bigger issue, I think, is that all these guys are playing football on turf fields until they get to the NFL. And maybe the damage is already done at that point, because I do think we see a lot more like Achilles ruptures, a lot more ACL tears. And it's important to remember that muscle fatigue is the biggest indicator for what happens to those injuries, what causes those injuries. So it just might be a wear and tear of the body of not only playing football, but playing it on a surface that's harder than grass over a long period of time while your body's developing, that's creating these injuries that we're seeing at the NFL level because of all the turf that players play on before. And I think a lot of the debate has been focused on the NFL side of it. Not enough has been focused on, hey, what about all the other turf that football players play on before they get to the NFL? Because I think that has as much to do with it as the turf that they're playing on now.
Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
Thank you, Dave.
Quincy Carrier, make sure you check him out. Great stuff. Untitled, unfiltered Browns coverage. Always really good insight with Browns in the NFL. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Jackson McCurry from the Dawgland podcast. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports 4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Looking at the Steelers' defensive line, they are beat up badly. They are limping into week 2, but knowing a Tomlin coach team, they will still fight. But a player I would attack early and often is Highsmith. He's a very, very aggressive player. He's disciplined, but he has a little trouble keeping contained at times, and I feel like that's the reason why San Francisco had a good time, because he was just so aggressive upfield. They would just run right by him, and Chris McCaffrey had himself a day, 150 yards rushing. I hope that Kevin and APT install a little bit more RPOs for Watson, just to get him going a little bit, keep that defense honest, because the one thing that a Tomlin defense will do is they like to hide a couple things, hide little wrinkles, show something different than what it already is or what it is. So I think the RPOs will work, also taking deep shots downfield with the play action, and so yeah.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Jackson McCurry from the Dawgland podcast. Jackson, this, again, you look at the two teams, Browns have the better roster. It's never an easy game against the Steelers, especially in Pittsburgh. Especially, there's going to be a sense of urgency because they are 0-1 in the division. They could go 2 back after 2.
Oh, definitely. And you don't see that often out of a Pittsburgh team. I mean, Tomlin's never had a losing record. Cleveland hasn't won at Pittsburgh in the regular season in 20 years. Pittsburgh's, I think, won 20 straight Monday Night Football games. So, yeah, there's definitely a sense of urgency there. I mean, with how tight the AFC is, maybe they can still get in towards the end of the season. But going down 0-2 to start the year, dropping a game in the division and against a conference opponent, it won't bode well for Pittsburgh if they do go 0-2. Some of the media is already freaking out there after an 0-1 start. If they go 0-2 and lose to the Browns at home, yeah, there's going to be real panic in Pittsburgh.
So one of the challenges the Browns will face is you've got a rookie 4th-round pick in Dawan Jones going up against T.J. Watt. Kevin Stefanski talked about that challenge earlier today.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's very similar to what we talk about with our defense. With Miles and Obo and Z. Anytime you can balance out a rush like that, it makes life really hard on an offense. And I think you saw last week with Watt getting 3 sacks in the game. Highsmith is always going to affect the game, pressuring the quarterback. So it's certainly a challenge, and you have to take that into account as you're designing your game plan, both run and pass game.
Dawan Jones starting this game and having that challenge of going up against a T.J. Watt.
Yeah, I think oftentimes you want to break it down to a one-on-one matchup, but the truth is it's our offense versus their defense, and certainly with the rushers that they have on the other side, you have to really look at it that way and say it's our scheme, it's our players. Certainly with Dawan, he's going to get plenty of opportunities versus T.J. Watt, who's a premier rusher in this league. So those are the competitive nature of our game. It does come down to one-on-one matchups at times. So I know he's going to work really hard this week to prepare himself.
And Jackson, it sounds like being cognizant of that, you're not going to see what you saw when you had James Hudson going one-on-one against T.J. Watt, and that didn't end well.
No, it did not. That was the last game of the Baker Mayfield era. And, James Hudson, I don't think he's ever really rebounded from that. He had a couple good starts last year, but overall he seemed to have regressed since that matchup in 2021 against TJ Watt. But yeah, you definitely don't hope that bodes to the same for Dawan Jones. I think he had a really solid performance in terms of pass blocking against Cincinnati, and I think the Browns will probably help him out some, maybe add Njoku over there, or Akins or Bryant, give him some extra help. Obviously he's got Wyatt Teller to his left, so that's a lot of help as well. But yeah, you just hope Dawan comes in, holds his own against TJ Watt. We all know how great TJ Watt is, and I'm sure he'll win a couple battles, but for the most part, you just hope Dawan can hold his own against one of the elites.
So Deshaun Watson met with me today, talked about kind of balancing taking shots deep downfield and getting rid of the ball quickly.
It just all depends on the play. If it's a quick game, the ball got to come out, we can't hold it. If it's, drop back and, move in the pocket, and then you can hold it a little bit longer. But You just got to pick your spots and where you at on the field and the situation of the game. And, sometimes you capitalize and sometimes the defense wins. So, you just got to win with that and take it as it comes.
So, Jackson, when I looked at Deshaun Watson, there were a couple of plays, even in the bad weather, that you saw. Okay, those are the plays he needs to make. The run at the end of the first half, there was a pass play where it was over an underneath defender in front of a safety, right on the hands of the receiver. There weren't as many of them as you wanted to see, and that might have been weather related. When you look at Watson, what did you see in that Week 1 against Bengals?
You definitely saw some good throws towards the end of the first half. Like you said, the throw to Cooper, the throw to Peoples-Jones, those were the great moments. But then you saw some stuff, and, I watched a couple throws, and his footwork, the way he had his feet set were very concerning to me. There was a couple where it just looked like, and he's talked about how his base wasn't in the right spot. There was some alarming things that I saw, but I think he gets himself too amped up. He even talked about how he cramped in the first half, had to get an IV at halftime, but he just needs to slow down, let the game come to him. We all know Deshaun Watson has the talent to make the throws and to make the plays to put the Browns in a position to win. But he's got to, slow it down some, let it come to him. Stefanski called a great game and got guys open. It's just a matter of Deshaun fixing those mechanics that looked alarming at times on Sunday and just letting the game come to him, let it flow, and I think he can make some solid throws. And we saw glimpses of it. I mean, if he would have put a little bit more juice on that deep ball to Goodwin on Sunday, I think that's a touchdown. So you saw the flashes. You just need him to develop some more consistency.
Jackson McCurry from the Dawgland podcast and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Want to remind you, send us your predictions for the Browns-Steelers game Monday night, as well as any ideas that you have for a nickname for this Browns defense. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Jackson McCurry from the Dawgland podcast. Anthony Walker, Browns middle linebacker, talked about the defense playing well in Week 1 for the Browns and the Steelers' offense struggling Week 1 against the 49ers.
You don't want to put too much in a Week 1. You have some first time everybody's back on the field playing a full game together. So you never want to, like I said, put too much emphasis on it. We know that the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're hard, tough-minded group. They run the ball really well. Number 8, very accurate thrower, especially on the run. So we have a huge challenge to keep him in the pocket, stop their run game, and they have playmakers outside as well. So again, we don't want to look at our film and think too highly of ourselves, and look at their film and think too lowly of them. We have to go and approach this week as its own week, and it's them versus us this week. So that's all it is.
And Jackson, when you look at it, the Steelers ran the ball 10 times and threw it. I think it was 46 or 49. That's not going to happen. And that's how quickly it got out of hand against the 49ers.
Yeah, I was watching, the Browns game, and you see the scores on the bottom ticker, and it was 17-0, and it was really quick. I mean, we know what San Francisco brings. They have one of the elite defenses of the league, and you got to think that Jim Schwartz was probably watching some San Francisco, the tape from last week, to see what San Francisco is going to do to get kind of a feel of how to attack the offensive line for Pittsburgh, because even though they added some pieces in the offseason, it's still struggling. Their right tackle's in concussion protocol. They could be starting their number 1 draft pick at right tackle. So, you don't want to take too much away from Week 1 on both sides. I mean, yes, the Browns looked great, but there's still room for improvement offensively. And, you Pittsburgh's not going to come out the same way. We talked about the sense of urgency. I'm sure, they're hammering stuff home this week in practice and in the meetings. Mike Tomlin definitely saying that this is not the way we play football. And I expect Pittsburgh to come out and look like a different team on Monday night. It's not going to be easy for the Browns. It's always a battle when these two teams get together. And I expect it to fully be a battle come Monday night.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. Mike Tomlin, there's a reason Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season. You come back from games like that. This is really interesting, though. So the Browns have a big opportunity, and this is from Tyler Johnson tweeting this out. They can go the last time they were 2-0, 1993, when a very, very, very young Bill Belichick was the head coach. 30 years. I mean, let that sink in. It's been 30 years since the Browns have started a season with 2 wins.
And I was 1 year old in 1993, so I don't even remember that. So
I was
it's been a long
covering the
time.
team. I was covering the team. That'll tell you how old I am.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, and I seen a stat that said that they haven't won 2 straight division games since 2014. And then we talked about it earlier. It's been 20 years since the Browns won in Pittsburgh in the regular season. We all know what happened in 2021 in the playoff game. So there's some more demons for this franchise to exercise, and they can do it on Monday night. But yeah, to start out 2-0, Dave,
Yep.
This town will go crazy if they beat Pittsburgh on Monday night, and the Browns are sitting 2-0 heading into week 3.
Well, not only that, you're going to be, if the Browns go to 2-0, Steelers are going to be 2 back, and the Bengals and the Ravens play each other on Sunday. So that's going to divide things up even a little bit further. All right, before we let you go, 5 bold predictions for the Browns Steelers Week 2. This is from Dog Pound Daily. Number 5, Grant Delpit will have a pick 6. Number 4, Marquise Goodwin hauls in a 50-yard touchdown pass. Number 3, Dustin Hopkins stays perfect. Number 2, Agbo Okunrankwo makes it 2 games in a row with a sack. And number 1, Deshaun Watson gets on track, 3 touchdowns in a Browns win. All those, the 3 touchdowns, pretty bold. I don't know that it's going to necessarily be a high-scoring game. I think both of these teams might kind of try to knock each other off the line of scrimmage and run the ball. When you look at those, which of those would surprise you the most, I guess?
I was looking at the player props today because sometimes I'm a gambling man, and I've seen Marquise Goodwin plus 1,100 anytime touchdown, and he was getting open. The speed is still there, that Olympic speed that Marquise Goodwin's always had in his career. If Watson, if the weather looks better, which right now there's a chance of rain Monday night, if Watson can get just a little bit more zip on that ball, I'm thinking we're going to see a Marquise Goodwin touchdown come this Monday night. The Steelers secondary has struggled last week. It's not as good as it's been in the past, and I could see Marquise breaking loose and having a big-time touchdown on Monday night. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. It could be low scoring. I think the under is the trend to go for anybody that places bets down on these games. But I would not be stunned if Marquise Goodwin had a big play on Monday night.
When you look at it, what are some of the matchups you think the Browns have to win, and you can go with some of them that concern you as well? Key matchups for this one to end up as a Browns victory.
It's definitely our tackles, Wills and Jones against Highsmith and Watt. And then, Emerson and George Pickens, that's going to be a battle to watch. There was some, words exchanged through social media in the offseason between the two. You got a physical receiver in Pickens, a physical corner in Emerson, and they have history going back to the college days when those two battled, but with Georgia and Mississippi State. That's going to be another fun battle to watch. Obviously, Pickens will step into the number 1 receiver role with Deontay Johnson out. And I would imagine they'll probably rotate between Newsome, Emerson, and Ward going up against them in certain situations. But I could see Emerson being the lead guy in that battle just because he has the history with Pickens as well.
Do you think the Browns try to run the ball again, or do you think they open it up a little bit? Is it weather dependent?
Weather dependent, definitely, but I think with Hayward out, that they're going to try to run the ball some, because obviously Hayward being missing on that defensive line, and you got guys that aren't the best run stoppers up front for Pittsburgh. I could see them trying to set the tone early with Chubb, and Chubb always gets up for these division games, so I could see them trying to run it early, open up the passing game throughout the rest of the game. But we know Stefanski. He schemes these guys to get open, so it will not shock me if they come out swinging with the passing game on Monday night.
Jackson McCurry, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jackson.
Thank you, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Jackson McCurry, make sure you check him out, the Dawgland podcast. Want to remind you, get us your predictions for the Browns-Steelers game Monday night. We'll use them in Monday's show. Also want you to name this Browns defense that was so good in Week 1. Again, leaving them on the voicemail of Truth and Reason. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.